Hello and welcome. Thank you for checking out this channel. My name is ChrisArchitect. I am a writer for gstylemag.com, and today I'm going to talk about my experience playing Assassin's Creed Shadows. Yeah, I was invited by Ubisoft to try out their preview build. This is not the final product, or anything here is not reflective to the final product. And I played about 2 or 3 hours of the game. I was able to play the beginning of the game, which I'm not going to talk about, and then I was transported to a later save file. And from there, I was able to explore feudal Japan during the time period where Nobunaga was reigning supreme. I was able to pretty much tackle any location, any path I would like. I can switch between Naoe, who is the shinobi, or Yasuke, who is the African samurai. And yeah, let's talk about what I like and what I didn't like about my experience playing this game. Yeah, actually, what I do want to tackle is that I was playing this game under a specific condition. I was invited personally into a location so I can play this game, but the game was being ran through a cloud service, and it seemed like it was their proprietary cloud service, which is similar to what they did when I previewed Avatar Frontiers of Pandora. Now, I played at 1080p configuration through the cloud service, and it seemed to have been 60 frames per second, which is a good thing. And input response was pretty good. It barely blurred, but it did happen. I was told that when the game launched, it would be at 4K, which is a good thing. And yeah, the first thing I really want to tackle is its presentation. Assassin's Creed Shadows is probably the best looking Assassin's Creed game to date. My personal favorite is Valhalla, which that game looked really good. And typically their games have been looking good for some time now, but Shadows pushes that just a little bit more. There's a lot more fidelity going on. The game is set open world once again. There's dynamic weather system, and it seems like storms and windy scenarios would actually affect the player, which is exciting. But the thing that really caught my attention is whether or not the game had ray tracing. I didn't get any confirmations when I was playing the game, but I tried my best to see whether or not the reflections and the shadows were all ambient occlusion or screen space reflections. I was bringing, the camera to as close to the edge as possible. I saw no deterioration on reflections. I didn't see any weird artifacts. And I don't know whether or not the shadows had ray tracing. I'm just very curious on what kind of techniques they're using because it looks really, really nice. Now, the environmental details is high quality across the board. There's a bunch of unique foliage. Scope seems wide. The map seems enormous, and there's great distinctions across the board. So that if you're playing the game in immersive, like I did, information that they would give you based on your quest, it would be easily discernible as you explore. It'll say stuff like the location you're looking for is at the easternmost part of this specific town, and then it is a shrine, or it'll say the building is rusted, or it'll say there's an awning over it, or whatever the case may be. Details in these missions are actually really well done, and environments reflects that in such a way that just makes the exploration that much more organic without feeling too lost. And they did this technique with Avatar Frontiers of Pandora, which is something I truly adore, because when I'm playing an open world game, I want to feel as organic as possible. I want to get that feeling where things in it that just feels like I discovered it. Red Dead Redemption 2 does a fantastic job. Elden Ring did a fantastic job when it first launched, and I need that level of fidelity. And it seems like they're doing a good job here with Assassin's Creed Shadows. And in conjunction with that, the cutscenes seems far more cinematic than before. They did an excellent job in just paying homage to like the classic samurai movies. And it just looks really good. It's very cinematic. It's well acted and well animated. This goes with speaking to NPCs outside of like story beats. It just feels cinematic to talk to everybody. The dialogue system that was introduced in Odyssey or in Origin is back here, and it seems to have some level of depth, because when I was doing a quest, I was speaking to like the main person I needed to speak to, And then the person stopped and spoke to someone else, a child, and then kept walking. And I had the choice to either keep walking with the dude or speak to the child, which I chose to speak to the child. Spoke to somebody that of interest. The person of interest had information that I learned from speaking to that child, and then that action was reflected on the dialogue. So there seemed to be some level of depth with the conversations here, which is appreciated. Now let's talk about the gameplay segment, which I enjoyed more than I thought. Yasuke and Naoe plays hugely different. While you can do all types of parkour with Yasuke, he will have a hard time climbing taller environments compared to Naoe. He'll make comments like, oh, Naoe would do so well to climb this pagoda or something like that. Whereas Naoe will have a hard time fighting groups of enemies. She will get easily tossed, staggered, and knocked down compared to Yasuke. Whereas Yasuke will have a harder time stealthing. He'll get easily caught. That dynamism really works well with this game, especially in this time period, especially with what they're trying to do thematically. And I really enjoyed that part. Though I didn't have that much fun playing as Naoe because I kept messing up the idea that I'm playing as Yasuke all the time. I like that gameplay style. I should do the same with Naoe, and then I die often. Of course, if you play on easy mode, everything is easy, but I'm talking like from normal up. The game is quite difficult in terms of just like understanding how the system works with Yasuke and Naoe. Yasuke is a tank. Just think of him as a bear, sort of like Kratos. Naoe is like Atreus. Nimble, fast, can easily be, staggered and knocked down. Yasuke could just go through doors. He can fight hordes of enemies with ease. He can take damage. He doesn't stagger easily, so on and so forth. And I decided to play as Yasuke first and spending the majority of my time playing as him because he fits my playstyle more. I do like the stealth elements in this game. It's actually really good. But with Yasuke, I just wanted to see how responsive he was, whether or not the system felt similar to like Ghost of Tsushima, for example. The way he plays is the usual R1, R2, and then L1 to block and deflect. L2 is to aim your long weapons, which is like a bow or a musket, and then you can just utilize that. And if you hold R1, I believe, press one of the face buttons, and he could do like a special move. The special move is what can turn the tide in a battle. So like he does like this Spartan kick, and he will launch the enemy. I'm talking about like several meters. And it's hilarious to see because it seems like the developers put emphasis on destructible items in the area. So like if you launch them to like a stack of barrels, they will get thrown through and debris will fly out. And it looks really nice, but it's just like you see this environment that is authentic looking, and then like this comical move comes to play, and it just becomes super fantastical. And I get it because you're in this animus and you can do whatever you want, but it's just like there's a decent blend of like grounded and fantasy that I really appreciate. I really enjoyed it in Odyssey, and it seems like they might be honing into that with Assassin's Creed Shadows. But yeah, he had some pretty cool moves. I didn't play much with his other weapons, but I did play with a glaive, and I did use a long bow, and they play really well, and it's very responsive. The enemies are kind of aggressive. The lighter enemies will attack through you, and then they will bounce off you. Medium enemies will just like kind of just like all group up on you, and then the heavier enemies will take damage, and a lot of damage. They're a bit bullet spongy in terms of health, but I'm pretty sure that will be refined. And given their level of aggression, if you're caught playing as Naoe, you will get easily overwhelmed. She can fight and defend herself, and she is able to stagger enemies, but you will have a harder time doing so with her than you would with Yasuke. So you have to primarily play stealth with her. So like if you see a stronghold, you have to decide how you want to tackle it. And the way I've been playing is I will tackle with Yasuke, and if I see that it was easy to take over the stronghold, then I'm good to go. But if I see a bigger one, then what I would do is I'll switch to Naoe and then stealth with her and inspect the environment. And then from there, take out as much as I can before I switch to Yasuke, and then he'll clean out the rest. And her parkour is very good. Almost feels like Unity, which to me is peak. She is very fluid. She is very versatile. She does have like a grappling hook where she could pretty much latch on to any point of the building. She can use that to swing across to the next building. She does parkour moves. She does exaggerated flips, which looks pretty. Her move set is pretty like it's good, but only to escape. It's never to like you can kill enemies with her move set, but when you're caught, but it's always good to just attack enough to flee because I died too many times playing as her. It was pretty easy to die as her, especially with how aggressive the AI is in this game. Um, and but it just feels smooth. Animations is clean in this game. The characters are very likable in terms of what we hear from them and what I've seen in the story beats. I like the way Ooh, I was about to spoil something. Anyway, so yeah, it's just a really good presentation from what I played so far. I did like that when I was exploring the environment, so you get a bit of an organic interactions with like things happening in the world. It kind of gave me that Red Dead Redemption 2 vibe. I don't know how to what extent, um, I did find mini games to collect in the game. So like when I was playing as Newe, I noticed like there was these koi fish in a pond, and she made a comment on it. I interacted with it, and it gave like a serene, cutscene angles, and she was painting the koi fish like on her book. This game does have RPG elements, of course. There's rarity gear. Itemization is pretty simple. You get your weapons from enemy drops. Actually, no, you don't get it from enemy drops. You get it from chest, and there's tiered and levels to it, and perks, and you can craft. You have a storage where you can store your gear. It's basically back to Odyssey and Origins and Valhalla, which is my favorite style of Assassin's Creed. Um, and it's intuitive. I mean, it's what you expect from the Assassin's Creed game. It's just not as much, which makes me really happy. I think we should focus more with the Assassin's Creed game. I don't see the games as like foundational RPG games. To me, it's just an action adventure game with minor RPG elements. So like I see from what I played some elements of like dialogue choices, um, RPG elements that may be deep or whatever. And there is a skill tree, and you do get like different skills and upgraded skills, but it's just not a deep game. To me, it's just more like enjoy the story, enjoy the scenery, enjoy the exploration, and find and uncover the truth. And that's what Assassin's Creed is to me. And it seems like Shadows is really honing into that. I do like Yasuke. I think Yasuke was really awesome. Naoe, I think she's super awesome. Their character development seems to be very promising, and from what I play, I have good vibes for it. I have more faith in this game than I thought I would. I kind of initially thought like, hey, maybe they're pushing it with this game when they first revealed it, but from what I played, everything seems to make sense. I generally do enjoy Ubisoft's games. I really enjoyed Avatar: The Frontiers of Pandora. I really enjoyed, Star Wars Outlaw. They're not exceptionally perfect, amazing games, but I enjoyed them. And, I typically enjoy the newer versions of Assassin's Creed more than I did the traditional ones. I don't really like Mirage that much, but I really, really love Valhalla. I love Odyssey. I love Origins. And I think that's the natural direction that Assassin's Creed should always take moving forward. And Assassin's Creed Shadows is doing that in spades, in all honesty. I like the characters. I thought it was going to be forced, but it seems like it doesn't feel forced. They both play their strengths, and when you are, forced with their weakness, like you will get hit hard. Now, let's talk about the things I found that I didn't like about the preview of Assassin's Creed Shadows. Now, I'm taking into consideration that this is a pre-build and is not reflective of the final product, but there are some things in the game that I'm actually sad is there and I don't think is going to be changed by the time the game releases. And that is the transitions between cutscene and gameplay, and even speaking to NPCs. The screen will fade into black and then go into the cutscene, fade into black, come back into gameplay. And to me, that detaches me from the immersion. Games like Red Dead Redemption 2 or God of War Ragnarok or The Last of Us Part 2, those games do away of those kinds of transitions and just keeps the game seamlessly moving along. And I think, this game could have done really well by just not adding those kind of elements. I'm sorry, you may hear my sons in the background. I have no choice but to be a father. So with that being said, another element I didn't like about this game was that the facial animations when speaking to NPCs outside of cutscenes are pretty plain. Meaning they're very stoic when speaking, with different voice tones and stuff like that. And I just found that it was a bit lazy. I don't think that will be solved by the time the game launches either. I feel like it's a huge task to try to work on facial animations with NPCs, just a couple months before the game launches. And lastly, I did not like playing as Naoe for the most part because I understand that she's a stealth-centric person, and I understand that most of her combat relies on you attacking and fleeing and then going back into stealth. I just feel like she was a little too squishy. Whenever I was in a conflict where there's a large amount of enemies, they would throw constant smoke bombs at me. They would knock me over consistently, even when I'm trying to attack and flee. I would be staggered far too often, and I would die almost immediately most times. And I found that it was a little bit too frustrating because I am an action stealth person, and if I get caught, I would like to have a chance to fight back and even kill enemies before I have to go back into hiding. That could just be that I need to get good. That could just be that I didn't optimize her well, and I need to get used to her combat style, but for the most part, I found her to be a little too weak. So yeah, that pretty much wraps up my experience with Assassin's Creed Shadows. I enjoyed my time playing the game. I look forward to it releasing. And yeah, with that being said, I'm going to let the rest of the gameplay clip run in this video. And if you enjoyed this video, please like, subscribe, comment, share, so that, I can face against the insurmountable algorithm in YouTube. I do post shorts, I post TikToks and IG Reels, as well as Facebook, and all of my socials will be linked below. And yeah, I appreciate your time. Take care, and until next time, peace.
I have to tell Lord Kanbei about this.